when that opportunity knocks and you can become something successful in life, you got to push forward. This ain't made for everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's like everybody ain't gonna be a star. Everybody ain't gonna be the shit. Everybody ain't gonna be what you are. Just like when T-Pain came out. T-Pain was the shit. Then everybody took his auto-tune
and went with it.
Now where's T-Pain?
His music career began in 1992 when he was discovered by Dr. Dre of NWA. He has since sold over 35 million albums worldwide.
1 2 1 2. I'll give you a story real quick, not to take up too much of your time, but on that trip in Amsterdam, we had so much fun. Our mind.
A tall, thin man with a leisurely gait, a voice as smooth as smoke, and a charisma that makes the whole world nod. That is Snoop Dogg, the living icon of hip-hop, whose name everyone knows just by hearing it. You're not just a rapper. He is an American cultural icon, the soul of the West Coast, and a shadow too large for any artist to dare follow. But behind those energetic appearances in front of the camera lies a dark truth that few understand. Just a few years after his peak, Snoop fell straight into a storm of chaos that shook Hollywood. Loved ones turned away one by one. The 3 a.m. calls bring bad news and the psychological burdens that no doctor can prescribe for. The man who once made the whole world laugh and dance to every rap line is now struggling against the terrible loneliness within his own life. So what made America's meme king the center of a series of tragedies? Are you ready to touch Snoop Dogg's darkest secrets? 1. From the shadows of Long Beach to the world's pinnacle, Snoop Dogg's full name is Calvin Cortazar Briss Jr., born in 1971 in Long Beach, right when California's murder rate peaked. A world where opportunities are scarce and violence is commonplace. Calvin was the second of 3 brothers growing up in a home completely lacking a father figure. His father left when he was less than 3 months old to join the army in the Vietnam War and then disappeared from his life forever. The stepfather appeared as a small glimmer of hope, but it led nowhere after a fierce argument. In a world where everything can turn its back, Calvin only has his mother and music to lean on. That boy carries within him 2 lives that are not at all alike. A church Calvin sang in the choir, played the piano, sold candy, and delivered newspapers to help his mother. And a Calvin from the boy's 6th grade class who could rap as if it were DNA in his blood. His mother called him Snoopy because of his long face, quiet demeanor, and mischievous personality, just like the cartoon dog. A seemingly harmless nickname that would become the name that changed the history of hip-hop. But stepping out of the church, the world was no longer pure. Long Beach back then was gang territory, where every block was controlled by someone. In a place where every street corner can be a battlefield, children are not allowed to be innocent. And Calvin, despite his love for music, still had to learn another language, the language of survival. That's the only way not to become a victim. The more outstanding the musical talent, the more legal troubles followed. Briss became a member of the Rollin 20 Crips, one of the most notorious Crips gangs in the East Side neighborhood. Not long after graduating, he was arrested for drug possession and sentenced to 6 months in prison. In the next 3 years, he was in and out of jail repeatedly for various offenses. At times, he was even imprisoned due to his involvement in the death of a member of a rival gang. That was a period when so many young people lost their future just because of one wrong choice. At that time, getting involved with gangs could cost you both your life and your chance to take the stage. And yet Snoop still stood strong. A rare feat in Long Beach during those years. It was in prison that music became the ultimate lifeline. Snoop rapped for his fellow inmates just to pass the time. But those who had broken the law were still sharp enough to see what he himself hadn't. You don't belong here. You have to go outside. You can't die here. Those words became an obsession for him for many years to come. In the early 1990s, the first opportunity emerged in the way hip-hop often creates legends, starting with rejection. Snoop and his close friend Warren G were ignored by record labels. Demo tapes sent out disappeared. Both had almost gotten used to the feeling of being shut out right in front of them until a party. Warren G asked to play the demo tape for the noisy crowd, and someone started nodding along to each lazy but cunning word. That person is Dr. Dre. He listened, and he saw the future. "This is the good stuff," Dre said. And the funniest part is when Dr. Dre called Snoop to invite him to the studio. Snoop thought someone was trolling him and hung up. It wasn't until the second call that he believed it was really Dre. The moment Snoop walked into the studio to record Deep Cover in 1992, history changed. After that recording, he became an irreplaceable piece of The Chronic. As soon as his voice is heard, the music immediately changes color. Then Doggy Style arrived, a cultural earthquake. Nearly 1 million copies. In its first week, the fastest-selling debut album to reach #1 on Billboard at the time. And quadruple platinum in just 1 year. A child who once ran from the police in Long Beach now stands on top of the world where the lights shine down like magic. The peak of fame began to bring many fears to people. After 1996, when he was officially acquitted in a suspected murder case, his name became widely known in the gang world. However, he realized he wanted to pursue a genuine musical path, not become a crime boss. That's why he decided to step away from the underworld and step onto the world stage. Entering the 2000s, Snoop continuously reinvented himself. From a gangster rapper, he became a model father, then a tech entrepreneur, then a pop culture comedian, then Martha Stewart's friend on television, the lovable uncle figure who made the whole country laugh. But even legends are not immune to the cruelty of life. In 2024, tragedy struck him twice in a row. 2. A past I don't dare mention. 2024 is like life testing. How many more times a broken heart can be before it stops beating? Outsiders still call Snoop Dogg the coolest man alive, the man who nothing can faze. But that year, he didn't just collapse. He shattered in a way that no television show or entertainment article had ever mentioned. The stroke that hit Corey came on a seemingly harmless morning. A call, a few rings, then silence. To others, it's just a bell. For Snoop, it was like a gunshot going off right next to his ear. Corey, 24, suffered a severe stroke. The daughter he once carried on his shoulders, held when she was scared, and who used to call him Pops, in a sweet voice, now lies motionless in the emergency room. Lupus plagued her throughout her childhood: joint pain, purple patches of skin, mornings when she couldn't get out of bed. But a stroke is something no one can prepare for. He didn't cry at the hospital. He just squeezed her hand, holding it tightly as if his warmth could pull her back. Snoop was seen wearing sunglasses, a hoodie, and standing as still as a statue. But sunglasses aren't for style. It's to hide the dry red eyes from sleepless nights. In the days that followed, he didn't return to his bedroom. He went into Corey's room and closed the door. The whole family thought he just wanted peace and quiet. But Snoop stayed in there, didn't turn on the lights, didn't eat, didn't talk. His wife had to call a psychologist to intervene when he started saying things that made the whole family shudder. "If the girl doesn't make it, I want to go with her." The man who had survived gangs violence in a murder trial was now choked up like a child. Some nights people could hear him sobbing from his room, crying so hard it sounded like he had no breath left. He collapsed to the floor, clutching Corey's photos and repeating over and over, "I wish I could take the disease for him." Facing a lifetime of guns is easier than facing the unmoving gaze of his daughter. And before he could even stand up before his daughter's heart, still relied on machines to maintain its rhythm. The second blow came. Just a few weeks later, Bing Worthington, his brother and most trusted confidant, who had weathered every storm with him for 3 decades, died suddenly. No warning, no signs, just one call. Bing is gone. Sometimes a sentence with just 2 words is enough to break a person. To the public, Bing was just a collaborator, a behind-the-scenes person. But for Snoop, it's the rest of his youth. Witness to every mistake every time he escaped death and gang life. Every secret Snoop never spoke on stage. Bing is the only person he doesn't need to pretend in front of. No need to bring the Snoop Dogg persona. No need for swagger. No need to be cool. When Bing passed away, Snoop not only lost his brother, you lost the only person who knew all the dark corners you hid your whole life. The world sees an Instagram post, a few lines of thanks, a black and white photo. But they didn't see the empty kitchen where Bing used to make coffee every morning. I don't see the sofa still smelling of his cologne. No messages were ever answered. The screen only showed the word delivered like a cruel joke of fate. For 30 years, Snoop has been familiar with death, but it's been the death of friends, colleagues, people he loved but didn't live with. Tupac was shot. Nate Dogg is gone. DMX did not survive. He has carried too much grief in his heart. But there's still a distance. Not this time. This time, it went straight through the chest. This time, it touched the two people he was sure he would protect until the end of his life. Two names that made his whole world collapse in a few weeks. People think celebrities have a team to worry about. But in reality, fame only keeps the pain from being revealed. Snoop still has to sign the contract, still have to show up, still have to pretend to be okay because hundreds of people earn their living from his image because the Snoop Dogg brand cannot collapse just because Calvin is hurting. So on the outside, he smiled on talk shows, joked with Jimmy Kimmel, took pictures with fans and went to events with Martha Stewart. But inside, he felt like his whole body was slowly emptying. He walked onto the stage under the bright lights. But every night he returned to a dark room, opened his phone, looked at Bing and Corey's names in his contacts, and then quietly turned it off. In the car, there were nights. He drove aimlessly around Los Angeles with no purpose, no music, and no one knowing where he was. Rappers from the same era used to say they had never seen Snoop so quiet. It was a silence not born of composure, but of not knowing what else to say. Two tragedies struck in quick succession, hitting the two fears he had hidden all his life: the fear of losing his child and the fear of losing his biological family. Those are two weaknesses that gang life didn't touch, fame couldn't cure, and money couldn't save. That pain didn't kill him, but it awakened his entire past, which he had tried to bury for years. A fatherless childhood, the violence of Long Beach nights when he believed anyone he loved would eventually leave him. The scariest thing wasn't loss, but the past returning with just 2 phone calls. 3. The past resurfaces. 2024 not only brought 2 unexpected blows, but it also pulled Calvin back to the place he feared most, his childhood home of Long Beach. It's not Long Beach on the map, but Long Beach is in his head, where old scars that had been dormant for decades suddenly resurfaced like wild beasts awakened. Outsiders only see a Snoop Dogg grieving over his daughter's stroke and his brother's death. But for Calvin, that series of tragedies was like a perfect replica of his childhood. Losing his father, losing loved ones, losing a sense of security. The 2024 fall wasn't just the fall of the year, but the fall of a lifetime. Most fans believe Snoop has been ironed out. A person who once lived among iron bullets, drugs, and courts, and even survived a murder case. What else could bring him down? But life has a cruel way. It always hits you, right where you're weakest. And Calvin's weakest point has never been fame or money. That's family. And in 2024, it took away what neither the mafia nor the courts could the man he loved. The rhythm of that year's loss was like a cruel copy of his childhood pattern. When he was just a 3-month-old boy, Calvin was abandoned by his father. Not a single letter, not a single explanation, not even a single look back. That disappearance became the first cut, a distorted definition of family that Calvin carried throughout his life. Then growing up on the streets of Long Beach, where the homicide rate in the late 1980s was among the highest in California, Calvin learned to live with bad news. You were shot yesterday. An acquaintance was arrested the day before a neighbor was taken away this morning. Damage in Long Beach never comes alone. It came in pairs and chains like gunshots firing in rhythm. So when 2024 arrived, his brain didn't react like that of a 54-year-old man, but rather like that of a 17-year-old child sitting in a dilapidated house on the east side, hearing the news that another person had passed away. That feeling, having the people you love taken away by life, came back whole, not faded in the slightest. People often say time heals, but with Calvin-style scars, time just puts a band-aid on it. When it's triggered, it will explode. There's a truth Snoop rarely speaks, but those close to him all know. For many years, he's carried the fear that anyone I love will leave, That's not a constant worry for celebrities. That's PTSD inherited from childhood. In 2024, when his daughter nearly died and his brother truly passed away, that primal fear resurfaced like an old shadow he thought he had left behind long ago. The irony is that all of America only sees Snoop, the hip-hop legend, the fun uncle of pop culture, the living meme. But in the moment his family collapsed, no one saw Calvin, the multi-traumatized man from Long Beach who had spent his life struggling with feelings of abandonment. Step forward. What hurts him isn't just the event, but the memories that come with it. Seeing his daughter lying motionless brought back memories of his mother crying when his father left. Hearing the news of his brother's death made him remember each of his friends from the past who were shot without getting a chance to say their last words. The current pain just kept adding to the old pain like an iron chain around his chest. Some fans asked, "Snoop has been fighting for so many years. Why does this make him collapse so easily?" The answer is very simple. Because with gangs and guns, he knows how to survive. But with the illness and death of his loved ones, he was completely helpless. There are no traffic laws that can help you save your daughter from lupus. No freestyle verse can bring my brother back to life. No charisma can hide the feeling that he has once again lost the person he loves. Calvin had learned to stand firm against gangs in court and in the media. But before the hospital, before a phone call delivering news of death, all of Snoop Dogg's layers immediately fell away. This is the psychological domino effect that the public never sees. What you overcame in the past didn't make you immune to pain. It just made you accustomed to a different kind of pain. The pain of the streets of gunfire, of living fast and dying young. But pain because of family. That's where he doesn't have armor. That's where Calvin is most naked. And when the string of losses in 2024 hit, it was as if it brought all childhood memories to the surface. The feeling of everything important slipping through my fingers. A feeling he had hidden for 30 years suddenly resurfaced as vividly as the first day. A longtime fan once said, "Snoop never really forgot Long Beach. He just learned to live with it." And 2024 is the year Long Beach comes back to collect. For many people, childhood is just a memory. For Calvin, childhood is a locked room. He left, but the room never left him. And when the daughter collapsed, the brother left, and the room opened wide. No lights, no way out. Only the feeling of losing a loved one, a feeling he thought he had escaped. But trauma has its own memory. It knows when to come back. That's why the audience felt Snoop was unusually quiet. No more familiar jokes, no more fun live streams, no more of the Uncle Snoop energy that all of America loves. Because at that moment, the person standing before them wasn't Snoop. That's Calvin, the man reliving what he spent half his life trying to forget. Every time he sees off a loved one, he reminds himself, "I don't have as much time as I thought." From then on, he reconciled with those he had been at odds with, fought less, argued less, and let his ego drive the wheel of his life less. Those things that outsiders think are mature are actually a form of self-protection. The person who suffers the most is often the kindest. That's also why Snoop transitioned from the role of survivor to that of guide. He appeared in his junior studio not to show off, but to warn the fame trap is real. He told them about exploitative contracts, about quick money, but even quicker risks, about friends who change when you become famous, and about the price no one talks about when the spotlight shines on your face. Those words of advice didn't come from books, but from tears. Not the words of a legendary rapper, but of a man who has experienced almost every possible loss in life. And that was the crucial turning point from a gang runaway. Calvin became the guide for an entire new generation, helping them avoid the pitfalls that almost killed him. From someone once considered a threat to America, he became someone parents invited to speak to their children about discipline, family, and kindness. An arc that only those who have hit rock bottom can understand. Amidst all those layers of pain, responsibility, and expectation, the truth is that Snoop Dogg, at 54 years old, no longer cares about Grammys, charts, or records. He's interested in something else. Whether what he does makes anyone's life less miserable. And the fact that someone who once lived in darkness can bring light to others, that is the true legacy. Because in the end, it was that very change, that very transformation that helped him move forward. And it is also what creates a legacy greater than any golden trophy Hollywood has ever awarded.